So have you ever looked at Pottery Barn, Crate and Barrel, Restoration Hardware and say, wow, that looks great. How can I do that? Well, that's what I just did. I decided to do a Pottery Barn, Sausalito style Seadrift dupe. I looked up the color that is supposedly used by that finish by Pottery Barn. They said it was Sherwin-Williams Universal Khaki. So I went and got a quart of that paint, and I got me some glaze, and I went after it. And I gotta admit, this turned out beautiful. It was not as hard as I thought it was going to be. Actually, it wasn't as labor intensive as I thought it was going to be. And I can tell you that I will be doing more of these in the future because this particular dresser that I just finished sold quicker than any other furniture makeover I've done. So I am certainly going to be doing this. So follow along and see how I did this. Any of you can do it. It's not that difficult. So let's see how this all turned out. So the first steps in almost every furniture makeover project is to first take off the hardware. Even if you're going to reuse it, you at least want to get it off and get it cleaned up. And then the second step is to clean inside and out. You want to get all the dirt, the grime, oils, wax that may be on here, and you want to do both the inside and vacuum the inside and clean the outside. I use Crud Cutter. It's a fine product. I use it for all of my furniture makeovers. So once I get the hardware off and the cleaning done inside and out, then we'll be ready to start scuff sanding. So the only real repair I have to do on this is right here. Let's see if you can see it better. It's cracked, or it was scratched or something, and they tried to repair it with something. I don't know what it was, but it wiped right out. So I'm going to scuff this up, and then I'm going to put wood filler in here, and we're going to then, that's really all I have to do to the entire dresser is scuff sand, because I'm going to paint it kind of a sand drift Pottery Barn, say that 3 times, Pottery Barn dupe that I've never done before, and I think that it's going to be a lot of fun. So here I go. I'm going to sand this down, and I'm going to fill it with wood filler. I'm using my SurfPrep on the drawers with a 220 sanding sheet, and I usually use 220 when I'm scuff sanding, and that seems to work pretty well. So much easier when you just scuff sand. When you got to take down the bare wood, you go through a ton of sandpaper, at least I do, because I don't use toxic chemicals very often unless it's in intricate places I can't get a sander. But I just don't like the mess. So I use a scraper and sandpaper. So here we go. Going to fill this in and let that dry off. Then sand it down again. I am using DAP wood filler here. It's not very deep, so I don't see any reason to use Bondo, and this will work just fine, I believe. Okay, we'll let that dry, and while it's drying, we'll start to scuff sand the other drawer. So this is drawer number 2, so I have to do this times 7. And I'm wiping this drawer off with just a damp rag. And the reason for that is that this is just to get off any of the residue from Crud Cutter that I've used before. So I figured I would just wipe it off as I went over each drawer instead of doing it all at once. A little bit more convenient. Okay. Turn the wet dry back on, and we're going to scuff sand this and get it ready for paint. Again, using my SurfPrep with a 220 sanding sheet, and like I said, I have to do this times 7. So not much to say about this, just, you know, scuff sanding it so that my primer and paint will stick to it properly. Now that I've got this clean, I do find some minor dings on the top I'm going to go ahead and fix. I don't think paint will necessarily cover up. So a little bit of wood filler, I think we'll be good to go. So as I started to fill some of the little dings on here, the more I filled, the more I found. I didn't really think I was going to have this much to fill, but you want to do it, and after it's primed, I may find some more, because sometimes primer shows this kind of stuff up. And my repair on this drawer is now dried, and so I'm going to also sand this, again using 220, sand it down, and you know, so that it's completely flat. That way it won't show through the paint, and then I will be good to go on this drawer. I didn't show it in the video, but as I scuff sanded each of these 7 drawers, I also found some small imperfections on almost every one of them. And so I also had to fill those with DAP wood filler, and now I am going back and sanding them down and make sure they're all smooth. So I'm going to be painting the dresser with the drawers in. I'm gonna, obviously the paint is priming, but since I'm taking the hardware out and I'm going to paint with the drawers in, I am going to put some tape over this hole. I don't think any paint would get in, but I want to make sure that it doesn't. So we'll put this paint on there. And the reason I can paint with the doors, let me move this camera around in. So these drawers are flush. They are beveled right here, but it's not covering up any part of the frame whatsoever. So it's going to be really easy to paint the whole thing with the drawers in, and then when I'm done, I'll just pull the drawers and touch up on the edges. So the dresser's loaded in the spray tent, and I'm using my Graco D360 sprayer to spray on the primer. I'm using, I believe it's the setting 4 for the primer, and that seems to be working fairly good. I may have been able to set it up a little higher, but this seems to be okay. So I'll prime it all, let that dry, and then we'll be off to the next step. So when you do paint the drawers inside the dresser, or leave the drawers inside, you do have to update the edges on these. So that's what I'm doing now, is updating the, you know, going ahead and painting the edges that the sprayer missed. And since I painted this with the drawers in, I also have to do that the part of the frame that also got missed. So the dresser and all the drawers are primed, and I'm getting ready to put on the base coat. But before I do that, I'm going to just lightly sand the primed drawers just to smooth them out just a little bit and get rid of any imperfections. And of course I have to do this times 7. So I'm only going to show you the first drawer and imagine what the other 6 are like. Okay, all the sanding's done. I've wiped these down with a damp cloth just to get any other dust off of them. I'm going to be putting down a base coat using emerald urethane trim enamel. I can't see it, but it's in the color of universal khaki. And I tend to use Sherwin-Williams paints for just about everything. I like how they lay down, and I just don't see a whole lot of reason, unless I have something special I have to do for somebody, why change paints. I'm not being sponsored by them. I just like how they lay down and how they work. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the base coat on this one drawer. I'm going to let it dry, and then I'm going to put the glaze on. and see how this first drawer turns out. Since I haven't done this before, I don't want to waste a lot of time in painting everything only to find out that for some reason I don't have the talent or the skills or the patience or whatever to make this work. I don't think that's going to be the case, but I don't want to waste time or money either, since this is my first time. So I do need to get a smaller brush to help with just these edges, and then well, I'll get that after I do the top, and then we're going to let this dry. Normally I would use my sprayer and spray these drawers, but because I'm not quite sure how this turned out, I just decided to use a brush. Because I'm going for a faux wood look, I'm not that concerned with brush strokes. I don't want a lot, but I'm also not that concerned. And this paint lays down really well anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and brush this on, and then once that's on, I'm going to apply the glaze, and we're going to see how all this works out. You know, the one advantage of brushing, even though I would prefer to spray, is that you don't use as much paint. There's no overspray, so you know, I would have used a lot more paint if I had sprayed these drawers than using the brush. So I am saving a little bit of money on paint by brushing. And since I'm not looking for an ultra smooth finish, I want a smooth one, but not ultra smooth, then you know, using a brush is just fine. And by the way, you can get a pretty darn good finish. If I was really looking for a good finish, an ultra smooth finish, I'll be using this along with my spray bottle and watering this down a little bit. So we'll get these drawers done, and then we'll go on to the next step with the glaze. Okay, I'm getting ready to put the glaze on the first drawer, and these are the tools that I'm going to be using. Mainly this one and this one. I'm going to use this to put the glaze on, and then these two to create the faux wood finish. This is simply a deck brush, 5-inch, which is about the right size for that drawer. This little broom right here I got from the Dollar Tree. It also came with a little dustpan to match, but I didn't need the dustpan. But $1.25 at Dollar Tree. I'm sure Dollar Store has something similar. So we're going to get started on this, and hopefully this is going to work out really well. So when I start to put the glaze on, I just want to get it on the drawer. I'm not looking at making it pretty. I just want to get the glaze on, get it on the edges, and just get to cover the whole drawer. And then once that is done, I will go back and start smoothing it out with the deck brush. And once you see what the finish starts to look like, you could just stop with the deck brush. I decided to go ahead and take the little broom that I bought to give it a little bit more of a, I guess, wood grain look, and I'm glad I did. But we'll see how that works out here in a second. But like I said, and I taped off the sides of the drawers because I didn't want to get paint on the inside, on the underneaths of where the drawers overhang. Otherwise, I would have to sand it off, and I really didn't want to do that. Now the next step is to take the deck brush and start to remove glaze from the wood. You notice that I'm wiping the brush off as I go. That way it doesn't accumulate any of the glaze on the brush. So there's no real magic to this. It's you do this until you like the look that you like, I guess. And you'll see that I will go over this several times. Now, it is important which way that you draw the brush. On a real piece of, well, this is a real piece of wood, but on a piece of wood that shows grain, that grain is going to go lengthwise on this board in most situations. Also, the end of the board, the end grain, would also be vertical. That grain goes all the way through the wood, so on top, where it's horizontal like this, it's going to be vertical on the ends of the drawer face. So you want to give that look and make sure that on the top and bottom of the door face, you're going in the same direction. On the ends, you're going basically up or up and down to give it the illusion of the wood grain coming all the way through on the end. So like I said, there's no real magic to this. You keep doing this until you like what the look, the final look is, as long as it pleases you. I do try to do the brush in long, even strokes. I can tell, looking at this on the end, I do tend to kind of roll it a little bit, I guess. But I do even that out since I changed directions on the brush. But it would be best if it was just a straight line, as smooth as possible. So once I have this where I think that I'm done with it and I like the look, then I will start using the little broom to give it more of a wood grain look, and it also spreads the glaze around a little bit too. That it did not happen with the deck brush. So here I am with the broom, and I'm going to do this. And it's just very gently removing some of the glaze. It's evening. You can tell it's starting to even it out a little bit. And it's given a really good look to this door front. Again, I'm doing the edges vertically on the edge, top and bottom. I'm going horizontally, and I will do this until I like the result. So, like I said, no rules here, no time frames. It's just when do I like it and when do I want to stop. So over the years, this dresser has become not as tight as it was when it was first built. I'm assuming it wasn't built like this, but you can see here where it's not quite. There's a little gap there, so I think there's some gaps on all these joints. So what I'm going to do is caulk it before I paint it. That way it'll give a little bit more of a tighter look. I am using DAP interior window and door caulk, and I'm just applying it. I keep, you can't see it, but I've got a little tub of water where I keep my fingers wet, so I can kind of rub it in, and then just wipe off the excess with the paper towel. Pretty standard caulking job. This is the way that I caulk, and we're going to do this to the entire dresser wherever it needs it. Let that dry for, I don't know, it's an hour or two, and then we'll be ready to start to apply the base coat to the dresser. So now that the caulk is dry, I'm going to go ahead and put the first coat of base coat on. It seems like all this is taking at least 2 coats to cover. So I'm going to, the drawers are almost dry, so I'm going to put the first coat on the dresser. So I am getting ready to apply the glaze to the top part of this dresser, and I'm going to tape off the areas where I don't want the glaze, to get stuck to, since I am not going to be doing those areas quite yet. Maybe taping is an overkill. I suppose I could be careful with the brush and not get any paint on the areas I'm not ready to deal with. However, this stuff does dry pretty quick, and down here in Florida, the humidity is so high it dries very, very quickly. So I feel it's better just to tape it off. Now we're just getting the glaze on the top. I'm not worried about making it look pretty at this point. I'm just getting it spread out, and then we'll come back with the deck brush and the broom, just like we did on the drawers, and we'll start to make this top of the dresser look beautiful. So now I'm starting to use the deck brush to remove and to spread out the glaze that is on the top of the dresser. Now, the edge of the top should be vertical, because that's how the grain would look. And what you're trying to do is create a faux wood look here. And the front of the chest top should be the same direction as the top. That's how the grain would be. And so you just really want to keep the brush as dry as possible. As you go across it, wipe off the excess glaze, and you're going to go back and forth in long strokes. I know I did a couple where they weren't, but in general, you want to go back and forth with long strokes across the entire top of the chest. And there's no right or wrong answer here, so to speak. It's what you're looking for, and maybe you don't know what you're looking for, but once you see it, I think you'll know that this is where I need to stop. At least that's what happened with me. I kind of knew it when I saw it, and I said to myself, it's time to stop with the deck brush. I like this look, and move on to the wire brush to finish the application. Now, if you like what you see, you don't necessarily have to use the wire brush. You can stop here. I did want to give it a little bit more of a grainy look, and I think that's what the wire brush does. It also, again, spreads the glaze out a little bit. And you know, here I'm just kind of doing light strokes back and forth. I'm not really trying to go the full length of the table with the brush, and I'm just going to kind of brush it back and forth, also removing the glaze off the brush as I use it, and just kind of spread it out and keep going until I have a look that I want. It's subtle at this point. You're not going to see drastic changes, but you are going to see it spread out and even out a little bit, and I think you'll know when you're done. At least I did. I looked at it and said, this is what I like. I think it looks good, and I'm going to stop. So before the top of the dresser is completely dry, I need to put the glaze and do the same technique on the beveled edge on the front of the top. I like to get this done before the top dries, so that is best. As hard as I try, I may get some glaze on the top, and I need that to be able to blend it in. I am using a smaller brush than I did on the top, just because it's a smaller area. And then I'm coming back with the wire brush to do the same technique, and there you can see I'm kind of blending it in. Same technique again, just a smaller area. Now that I have the top of the dresser complete, it's time to move on to the sides. I will be going vertically, since that is the direction that the wood grain would have gone. And then once I've got the two sides done, I will move on to the front to finish up the wood faux technique. So I'm trying a little bit of an experiment here, and I want to give this dresser, I like this finish, and it's what I intended it to be, but I want to give it a little bit more of a driftwoody tint, so to speak. So I don't know if you can really see. I'm going to tilt this camera in here so you really get a good look at the top of this. I know it's all wiggly all over the place, so that's best I can do. And what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to do a dry brushing technique using some satin, kind of a silverish, light silverish paint that I have left over that I used in the house actually. And I'm going to just apply it very so lightly on here that I'm going to wipe it off just to give a little bit of highlight in the grain. I don't know if you can even see that in the camera or not, but can you see this hint of silver in there? I hope you can. I guess I'll figure that out when I review the video. But that's what I'm going to do to all these drawers. It's not a lot, just to give it just a little bit of a silvery look, and a little bit more of a, kind of a driftwoody look. So now that the rest of the paint and glaze has dried, I'm going to finish up the horizontal parts of the dresser facing. You notice that I've got the verticals taped off. I don't want to get any glaze on there. I mean, if I did and I didn't have them taped, I just have to wipe it off. But it makes it a lot easier just to be able to remove the tape. Again, going to have the exact same technique. Get the glaze on. I'm going to use a smaller brush. The big deck brush is just too big for this small space, so I'm going to use a smaller brush for that, but the same wire brush, and we're going to do that to the rest of the horizontals on the face of this dresser, and then when that's dry, we'll remove the tape and we'll do the verticals. Okay, so I'm putting on this. I forgot to start the video, so I apologize. This kind of a silverish gray paint. And try to give it a little bit more of a driftwood look. So I'm trying to dry brush it on and then wiping most of it off. I'll move this over, you can see what this time I'll get it on the video. Not a lot is going on, just a little bit, and then I'm going to water it down. I'm kind of winging this, first time I've ever done this, so I'm hoping going to turn out the way I hope. Well, if not, I gotta repaint, right? I think it is. Okay, one more time on the end. Yeah, I didn't use a lot of paint at all. down. And then blend it in. And you can see, hopefully you can see in the video, I've got just a little bit of color of the gray paint, the silver paint in here. The silver paint I'm using, by the way, it was leftover paint I used to paint a room. Actually, it was satin by Behr. It really doesn't matter. It's no special paint at all. So, all right. Well, I like the top, like how it turned out. So now I'm going to do the sides. So now I'm going to dry brush the paint on the sides and the two front rails of the dresser. Yeah, I never have really explained what the dry brushing technique is. I have a small amount of paint in a little bowl, which you can't see, and it's a small amount of paint, and I dab a chip brush. Chip brush is what I'm using into that. I then dab the chip brush into a paper towel to get most of the paint off, and then when I have got most of the paint off, there's just very little left on the brush, and that's what I'm using to paint onto the dresser. It's just a very small amount, and then after I get it on, I am taking a spray bottle, obviously, and wiping it off to the point of where I like the look. So that's what the brushing technique is here, and so I'm going to, like I said, I'm doing this now to the sides. I'll do this to the other side, and then to the two front vertical panels on the dresser, and then I'll be done. It'll be time for top coat. So I've already applied one coat of top coat. It's a Varathane matte sheen or matte finish. I've already applied one coat to the frame. Now I've got the drawers in, and I'm going to apply two more coats and then apply the new hardware, and this dresser will be called done. So here's the final reveal. My first Pottery Barn dupe in the Sausalito style with a Seadrift finish. I think it turned out very, very good. And this also sold quicker than anything else I've ever made over. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you found anything entertaining, educational, funny, learned something, please subscribe. I would appreciate it. And I will see you the next time on the next furniture makeover from the next season.